He took my spot on the couch last night, so I slept on the left side.
There's something wrong with that. I think maybe you should have.
I used to sleep in the bathroom when I was
Hello. Glad you're all here, and I hope more come over. There's a lot of good news that we're going to hear today. Let's start the meeting with the invocation. Lord and Father of mankind, we are grateful for this fellowship and day and your awesome love and grace by charging Brevard County churches the mission to assist the homeless and jobless. Thank you, Lord, for this effort of our leaders and hundreds of volunteers. We ask that you will have your Holy Spirit accompany our group and allow continuous prayer and love to reach out to those suffering from this unbearable homelessness. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. A couple of announcements. Betty Peterson, typically puts these evenings together for us, and she could not be here today. She's been called out of town with Harry, her husband, and they are away undergoing tests for a trial drug that if his body accepts it, he'll be using that for several weeks. So our prayers are for Harry and Mary. Please keep them in your prayers all week, because he may be gone several days, and perhaps he might just come home tomorrow after his tests are concluded. As you exit tonight, there will be a basket in the narthex for gifts of kind. If you're so inclined, thank you very much. Tonight, we ask that you focus on family homelessness. To sharpen that focus, please keep in mind that there are almost 2,000 kids in the Brevard school system that are homeless. So that kind of points up how should I say it? Well, the importance certainly of why we're here tonight. However, Sarah points out to us that underlying causes of homelessness are not just alleviated simply by providing housing, as crucial as that is. The most successful road back to financial and housing stability includes resources and tools for families to achieve active long-term independence. And you'll hear more about that this evening from our guests. Our speaker tonight will also provide us more information on the efforts of Family Promise of Brevard. First, let me mention that Riverside accepted Family Promise as one of its missions, yes, and it falls under the commission in our church, OMEC. I am the coordinator for Family Promise, appointed by the commission, and it's my job, of course, to bring you regularly important news and to arrange, for instance, functions like this. Basically, we started this program in 2013, and we were one of the first to volunteer the church activities for Family Promise. And there are 12 other churches in Brevard County that do the same. And so, I mean, the idea that originally in the startup was that the 13 churches and each one does 4 weeks a year, 52 weeks, and that takes care of our year. And it's pretty much arranged like that. We have a choice of when we want to do this. And so we arrange that with Family Promise, and that's our responsibility. Riverside rotational sheltering, as it's called, that is using the Riverside facilities to offer shelter and love to families that are chosen by Family Promise to go through their program. And that program is very intense. And when you talk with the families at these rotational dinners that we hold for them, you get a feel for, first, the real definition of homelessness. And then secondly, you get a feel that what they're going through is not a fun thing. They work very hard. The kids continue to go to public schools in Brevard. Actually, it all starts here at our church on Saturday, late Sunday afternoon. They arrive here to begin their week, and we have dinner and so on, and they get up the next morning, Monday, and they make sandwiches and for their lunch, and have a continental breakfast, as we call it. It's not bacon and eggs and so on, but it's a quick breakfast. And then their shuttle service meets them out here and takes them over to Rockledge, and that's where the kids meet their school buses, and the parents then spend hours of the day just trying to find work, writing resumes, and other incidentals that they have to have taken care of in order to go to work. So that's all done. The kids are done to school. They return out here at 6:30 at night, and they come right in and they're hungry, and we have dinner right away. But also, not only hungry, they are very, very tired. You can imagine the full day that they've had. So that's during school season. And then during the summer, we sent them to a county camp. And so they are well taken care of, and it works very well. So let me show you a couple of photographs, if I may. It'll be on our screens. Whoop, okay. This is a photograph showing the 2 bedrooms There are 2 of the 4 that we make available over in Calvin Hall. And you can see they're neatly made up. They're very comfortable. They have everything that is required, clean towels and linens and lighting. So it's a very comfortable bedroom. And we're always complimented by the way we provide for them for the week. They have a washer and dryer out in the kitchen that they use, and a shower, an outside shower that's enclosed but in a different room, accessible from the outside. So next. So this, at the very top, going across the middle, you see bedrooms 1, 2, and I think it's 4. And then under 4 coming down, there's a 4th bedroom that we also use. These, up until last year, these were rooms used for the most part by our day school. And they are no longer here, and so we'll be able to maybe change our schedules, because we always worked around their schedule. So it'll be more convenient, and there's a big difference between rotational sheltering and what we're doing currently. Excuse me. Currently, some of you may know that right now we've negotiated with a hotel, and the first hotel was over in Melbourne. And now this new hotel we'll be using for the remainder of this year anyway is in Merritt Island. So it's the Econo Lodge, if any of you know that service. But basically what we ask is for volunteers that will prepare the meals each day of the week that we have. And then we have a driver, one of our committee people, who picks up the meals and delivers them to the hotel. And typically what we were doing with the first hotel was we would take them to the front desk. They would call the families and let them know that the meals were there and they were picked up. So there isn't a lot of time for you to meet, or the driver to meet any of the families. So, but I can tell you that they're very, very appreciative of what we do and what we do when we go back to rotational sheltering, which could be soon, the last quarter of the year. We just have to get our churches lined up and perhaps a little bit more help. If you think about when we are doing rotational sheltering, keep in mind that it takes each week 30 volunteers to go through this. And that includes preparing the meals, serving the meals, cleaning, and chaperones. And also, we like to try to mix in 3 or 4 during the meals so that they can talk to the families as they eat, or even join in with the dinner. But it's an important task, but it's not, easily done unless we have 30 people from the church. So I hope that after our presentation tonight, you'll get a soft spot in your heart and volunteer to help. And it just so happens that it's timely because on June the 5th, we will have our first meal to serve at the Ocano Lodge. And I need 30 people I need meals for that week. So I'll be calling you. I've kind of memorized the faces that I see and know that you're interested in Family Promise, so that's good. And I hope that you'll learn enough tonight from this to consider wanting to be a part of this very special love that we transmit to these homeless people. So it is my honor tonight to introduce the Family Promise Executive Director, Family Pagliarini. Even though her accomplishments are both successful and numerous, I don't have near enough time to present all of her credentials. But she did write something that I think pretty much tells you so much about her. She answered a job posting, and it went like this, or part of it did. In 2013, I saw a job posting for an executive director of a startup nonprofit called Family Promise of Brevard. I don't recall the exact wording on the job posting, but the takeaway was that I would be the only employee, on call night or day or weekends, fulfill every job in the organization unless I raise the funds to hire someone else to help. And ultimately, I'd be responsible for spreading efforts to end family promiselessness in Brevard. And then she ends up by saying, who would take a job like this? So that's Tara. And Tara, please tell us the rest of the story.
Well, thank you very much. I think that the only way to explain why I took the job would be to show the video, Bob, because I think as soon as you see the video, you'll know my why, but it'll also, I think, help explain your why and why you've been involved. It'll help to kind of solidify that for you. So let's roll that footage, hopefully.
It all kind of started in 2019. I was working for a company that was temporarily working with the government, and the government shutdown hit. And it hit me pretty hard because that was our main source of income. So it made where we were living at kind of shaky, and then we ended up getting evicted. It put us in a bad spot. So it was me, my fiance, and our 3 kids. And we were riding around in like a white Oldsmobile Aurora trying to figure out what to do. We happened to run into a Cocoa police cop. She put us in touch with Mike from Family Promise. He got us into the shelter program, And they really took the time to teach us structure, teach us how not to make the same mistakes again, and teach us how to get out of the hole that we were in. I think it was really good, the meetings that we would have, because he taught me that there's really no excuse to not do well. Like, you can sit back and say, oh, well, I lost my job, or this happened or that happened, but it's not really the fall. It's more like how you get up from the fall, and that's what defines you as a person. So I've just been trying to prepare for the falls and enjoying the time in between. It's worked out. Everything they taught me, I've seen in real life. Like, I've taken it and put it in my life and seen it like multiply beautiful things for me. So I'll forever be grateful to Mark and Mike and Tara and Fran and everybody there, because all of them took a little piece of their time and showed me how to get my life back together. Their process and the way that they did their program is so special because, like I said, if you'd have broke us apart, it would have been a totally different outcome. And keeping us together, we were able to gain strength as a family. And it gave us like, sort of like a will to go on, because we were kind of down. We were going through a lot. So the instruction that they gave us and the counseling that they gave us, it really helped smooth our road out. Today, we are a totally different family. We live by rules and structure to keep the kids in a certain place. They're doing better in school. I own my own house now. I've saved up, and I'm actually working for myself. I'm a private duty CNA. They sent me to school to get my certificate for CNA. They sent me for dental work. They helped me with my health, get a doctor. I'm right now suffering with stage 2 breast cancer. But before I even knew I had it, Family Promise helped me set everybody up to where we were going to doctor's appointments. We weren't really doing that before. And that's how I found it. I had a reliable doctor that I got through Brevard Health Lines that Family Promise put me into. We were able to diagnose it early, and right now I'm just going through the chemo and going through the process to kind of get rid of it. But like I said, because of the things that Family Promise has taught me, I know I'll get through it. Reminded me, I should say, that I had the strength to fight any battle that was in front of me.
I hope you recognize that family, because they were here at Riverside. And you might remember the white Oldsmobile that broke down in your parking lot. That we couldn't get moved for a while. I hope you remember China and Leonard and their kids. They went through in 2019, early 2020, before COVID, before the pandemic hit. They were one of our last families that actually came through during that time. And I hope as you watch that, for me, it speaks volumes to, people will say, why do you shelter the way that you shelter? Why don't you just build a building and put people in it? That's what we need, build a shelter, put people in it. I hope you heard what I heard, and I hope you heard even more than I heard, but the magic sauce, and it came through loud and clear, is that connection to people, that people matter to people, and that you took the time to be with this family, to show them that they mattered, and to show them structure, and to show them love during their toughest time. And that's the magic sauce of the shelter program, of connecting compassion and putting it into action for this family. You provide that opportunity through what you described, this opportunity. They don't have to worry about where they're sleeping or how they're going to eat. They can focus on all those pieces that you heard China talk about. I hope you also heard that since we started in 2013, our dimensionality has exploded in terms of what we do. We're focusing on sheltering a family and making sure they have their needs met. But we're looking at that long game of how do we help connect that family to the health services that they need? How do we make sure their educational needs are met? How do we make sure that their income, that they can grow their income? How do we make sure that that family can become a homeowner? And from day one, even though it was just me in the beginning, but it wasn't just me, because it was you too. It was an army of volunteers, but I knew that it was possible. It just would take time, as long as we had the support, the physical support and the financial support of our community. And so tonight, I'm really, really thankful for the opportunity to come tonight to tell you that, how much you have done personally, because when many congregations didn't step forward to help, Riverside did. You were the first congregation that I trained in 2013. And I didn't know what I was talking about then, and I probably still don't know what I'm talking about now, because every day is about learning more and doing better. And that's what we model for our families. Y'all, we have helped over 9,000 families since we started in 2013. I know it's hard to see the impact with all of those families, because we've actually expanded from shelter to offering stabilization. You heard China talking about that. They use too much salt, by the way. When I watched that, I was like, there's like 4 things of salt going into the water. They need to stop. We work with family for a full year after they leave shelter to make sure that they can move on and elevate. But we started a prevention program. It's much more cost efficient and much less traumatic to keep a family in the housing they already have. There is no housing that's affordable in the county. So we've really focused on how do we keep a family in their current housing. So over the past couple years, Pastor Chris, he said, you've kind of been, it seems like you've been on sabbatical, and I could see why it would feel that way, because through the shelter program, you were touching families frequently. What I can tell you is we have, over the past 2 years, served almost 1,000 families just in the last 2 years. When the pandemic hit, even though shelter shifted to hotels, our referrals went up 450% overnight from families who were afraid of losing their housing. And though it was challenging to change how we delivered shelter, we knew that we had to do everything possible to keep a family in housing. How do we keep them there? So we went with as much gusto into providing prevention services as creatively as we could, whether it was by Zoom, phone call, on the front porch, 6 feet apart. We did it. However we could do it, we did it. We provided financial support and incentives to landlords who were also hurting, because landlords were hurting too. Families were hurting. Families we serve, low income, they're the first to have lost their jobs. Those are the jobs that they might have had a contract for, or were frontline in like retail. Those shut down. And so, as absolutely devastating as the pandemic has been for all of us, it was an opportunity to rethink or reimagine what was possible and to double down even more. What can we do, Family Promise? What can we do together with our faith-based community? But let's now invite our business community, let's invite our government sector, let's invite our education sector, our other nonprofits, and let's get our philanthropists in the community. Let's bring them all together and really focus on how do we bring economic mobility to our most underserved families that have no mobility and cannot afford any housing that exists in the county. And so we started in the beginning of the pandemic, and we said, where is the most impacted area? Where is the highest number of our callings coming from? Where is the area of the county that is making the least amount of income? And let's infuse all of these sectors and the good intentions during this time into those areas. And so I began conversations with the city of Cocoa, because the data showed that zip code 32922 was the highest need area in Brevard County. It's in that location that the average yearly income is $29,000. What we can say is a housing wage right now is about $25 an hour. Half the staff at Family Promise do not make $25 an hour. I don't make so much more than that. We do have a staff now, though, so it's not just me. But $45,000 is that threshold for affording housing, where you're paying only 30% towards your housing cost. Families in Cocoa are paying close to 80% of their income towards housing costs. So I went to then Mayor Williams, and I said, do you have a building that we could repurpose into a hub of services where we can put our services into that building, but can we also pair it with opportunities for other agencies to come live there with us on site that provide health services, that provide income opportunities, that provide education, and infuse that then with opportunities for families to earn more money by bringing training into the building. And he took me immediately to a firehouse that's just east of the water tower. Had been sitting vacant for 5 years. It's 7,000 square feet, falling to blight, roof coming down, asbestos, wood termites. It's terrible. It's a terrible building. And I walked onto the campus, much like I answered that job, that job posting, with like, who would take this building? And I knew that God called me to that building, and that was the building. I saw it. I got it inspected, donated, inspected. Everybody's been philanthropic on the project. It's like $1.5 million to renovate. Like, we don't have that kind of money. How are we gonna do that? City didn't sign a contract. It felt impossible. And then slowly the barriers went away. And the city agreed to a 20-year contract on the firehouse for $1 a year. And there was a federal grant that I could apply for to renovate the entire space for $1.5 million to cover all of the renovation costs. All of them, entirely. The only expenses we have are like furniture and playground, fence, the stuff that makes it pretty and makes it functional. And we're gonna get those funds. I will get them. I don't know how we'll get them, but we'll get them. We'll get them. We've gone this far, it's good. And we've been in this project and talking to every sector I just talked about. And so the spaces that you're seeing over here, this will be the new firehouse. It doesn't look like this at all whatsoever, but this will be the new facade. But the space over here, you can see it's massive. The purple area is our shelter area where families have the day location. They're still going to be sheltered through our congregations. We hope to return to shelter rotations soon. We have been as anxious as you have been to return. We know that connecting people to people is much better than families being in hotels where they're disconnected and that they're isolated. When we bring people together, we know that that's when that connection and at the end of the video, Chino says, you reminded me that I had the strength. And I know that when you interact with the families, you remind them that they have the strength. And they may remind you just how strong people can be and how strong faith can be. And so this area here is all shelter. We have an outside, I was telling Pastor Chris, it's kind of on steroids. It's huge now. We're expanding. Covered patio, we're gonna have a large playground out to this end. We have a shower kind of rooms where you have multiple showers. Bathrooms, we have a large family room, a kitchen, the family storage. We have an inside laundry room, large kids' playroom, and a sick room. We didn't have that before. And this will still operate exactly like we operate our current shelter, well, pre-pandemic, where families are here during the day as they're getting ready for school, daycare, work. working their program. Here's an office for our shelter staff. And then they go out and do what they need to do for the day, and at the end of the day, they come back and we transport them back to your church for the evening, the fellowship, the meal. In the morning, again, they come back to our location. But what's different is these front offices are Brevard Health Alliance, Career Source, Early Learning Coalition, Department of Children and Families. They all want to come in and be on site so any family that has a need in our program can access them. But we have 2 other programs, our stabilization prevention. Those services take place through offices on this side. So we have offices for our staff here, where we have a large bullpen for case managers. Mark's office, if you know Mark, he's in the back. This is my spot right here. That's the chief's office. I have a door I have like an exit door to go out and escape out the back door here if I want to, but no pole. It's a single-story building, so if I have a pole in my office, it's weird. So, but that's our space. And in the center is a large training opportunity, a classroom that holds 30, where we can bring in short-term certifications where people can quickly elevate their wages to keep up with the housing demand, the cost of housing. Housing from, I think they said fourth quarter last year to now, the cost of housing is 30% higher than income. So we're just really seeing that impact on families. As of Friday, there were 222 available rentals in Brevard County total. 222, 8 of them fell in what we call fair market rate. That would be available for families that are lower income and that they could afford. Only 8 of the total. So it's really urgent. I think the word you're looking for is the urgency is immense right now for us to move forward, not only to continue sheltering families when they lose housing, but to continue to do anything and everything possible to not only keep families in housing, but to help elevate their opportunities so that they're not spending all of their income on housing costs. And that's the best that we can do, is to just infuse this firehouse with all of those opportunities, including that magic sauce I talk about, which is the connection from people to people. There's going to be a lot more opportunities in this space for you to come and volunteer. That's been missing in our current space, where we don't have a lot of hands-on at our site. It's a smaller building, not as many opportunities. But here in this space, we have a classroom, we have a conference room, we have this outside area. We are creating in the classroom a plant wall where people can donate plants, and we need people to help with the plants. So if you're a plant person, I'm going to need your help. But we're doing the same thing outside. We're trying to infuse nature and the environment into the building and bringing it in there, and helping kids learn how to grow things, because we're helping them grow, and so it's kind of modeling it. So lots of opportunities. We expect to be in the building by the end of this year. It's been a labor of love. It's been a true test of my faith, because I'm trying to understand what I was supposed to learn these past 2 years, because the calls are heartbreaking. They're so heartbreaking. We get hundreds of calls from families that don't know what to do, and there aren't enough resources. There aren't enough homes. People, your neighbors, we get a lot of calls from seniors who incomes or rents are going up $500, but they're on a fixed income. They can't go up $500. It's devastating to hear it and to not have the answers to it. So while we're doing all of this and we're connecting all of this, we're also advocating for affordable housing. So last night there was the Brevard Justice Ministry rally for the Nehemiah group, trying to get our county commission to advocate for a housing trust fund and to try to create more affordable housing. Should be a priority of everyone. Florida was just voted the most expensive place to live in the country. We just won that. It was just on the news. Housing is out of reach. So our hope is that we're attacking it from multiple angles, because it doesn't just take the one piece that Dick said. You know, shelter is wonderful. It is an important piece, but it's not the only piece. That we have to bring all these pieces together. So I am happy to answer any questions that you have. We have time for that? I don't want to keep people, but I'm happy to answer. So we get calls directly, we get calls from all over the county, from partners, and we now have an intake coordinator. We actually have 10 staff now, so we have 10 staff. One person is dedicated to taking all phone calls. So that's all she does, is to assess. Her job is to truly, does that family need shelter, or can they be diverted back to natural supports? Because we only want to enter families into shelter that truly need it. If it's a family that we can mend a relationship, or we could help move them into housing, we're going to do that, not bring them into shelter. For families that are at risk of losing housing, we're going to work with them quickly and efficiently to try to keep maintaining where they're at. We have direct lines with like FPL where we can make online payments. We can make direct payments to landlords. But the caveat is that the family has to agree to case management with our organization. So the financial assistance doesn't come, it's not, if you know us, you know we're not a handout, it's a hand up. So, and I know a lot of people will say that, but it truly is, if they're going to enter into the work, you heard how aggressive it is. They have to work as hard as we are and as hard as you are in terms of, we want them to know that here are people donating resources, and we want them to be, and us to be the best stewards of those resources that we've been blessed with. So it is going through and finding out who is going to be able to really be able to help, and those that we can't, we're trying to do a warm handoff to those who can. But it's families with minor children is who we help. When we get referrals for seniors, for singles, we're referring them to our partners in the Brevard Homeless Coalition. Do y'all remember China? Maybe?
Yeah, Tara, how do you qualify applicants?
So any family that's coming into the shelter program, we do a screening where we understand what their background is and if they're currently using drugs or alcohol. In the hotel setting, it's not as, I don't mean it's not as important. It is important. We always want to know who we're working with. It's not a barrier to us helping them. It's just to us to understand who we're interacting with in terms of safety, in terms of need. But that's how we're qualifying, is doing a really thorough assessment. That person in intake is a master's level clinician like myself. And they're just looking at all of the pieces, understanding their physical needs, their mental health needs, their education, all of those pieces, their economic needs, housing needs. Same with the children in the house, and then developing a plan for moving forward. Any family that we aren't able to help for whatever reason, we're still doing that warm handoff to other agencies. Medical assistance, sometimes it's hard to hear China because she had some dental work done, but I hope you heard her say, part of our work, especially during the pandemic, first question is, do you have a primary care doctor? Do you have health insurance? Not to not help them, but to understand. And within the first week, we are connecting them to insurance, we're connecting them to primary care, and we're getting them set up for their visit so that it doesn't become emergent after the fact where they go to the emergency room. Because during COVID, as you know, everything should be scheduled and planned in advance. And so that has been tremendous. And what happened in China's situation is, because she got set up in 2020 with a primary care doctor through Brevard Health Alliance, that's how she discovered that she had a lump in her breast and had stage 2 cancer. And what she said to me, she came and visited at Christmas, and she said, she was telling me about the house, and she was excited, and she looked really tired. And I said, why are you so tired? You look so tired. Have you been working? She's like, no, I'm going through chemo. And it was sort of like an afterthought. And I'm like, oh, you're going through chemo? And she said, she goes, it's nothing compared to what I went through with homelessness. Like, I got this. We found it early enough, and it was only because you all insisted that I get connected to primary care. I would have never known it. It wasn't part of my family's culture to do preventative care, and that's what they did. They did preventative care, screening, found it she trusted her doctor. She's going through chemo. It's treatable, and she is very optimistic. You could even hear it. Like, it was like nothing to her. Homelessness was so much harder. It was so much harder. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could learn. I mean, she's got so much strength. And it's humbling, very humbling. So healthcare, very important. Having it on site at the building will be incredible. Because right now we're sending families to Brevard Health Alliance. Having a person here that can intake them in our building is tremendous. Takes out that step of you have to go somewhere. Yeah.
How many families are single parent families?
Oh, I don't have that statistic on me. It usually is about half. It's about half and half. We get single parents, and we still prioritize families with fathers and male children over 12. And 100% of the families that we've served have been meeting that demographic because we are trying to work closely with other partners that serve women and children, especially like New Life Mission, Genesis House, really focused on maximizing their resources, maximizing our resources, communicating about who needs what, and making sure that we're all doing what we do best. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of what we call intact families with mom, dad, and kids. And it's because of the, family that was doing okay pre-pandemic is now not doing okay because of the housing cost and that gap to afford housing. They do. It's like boot camp. It's a really tough boot camp. And it is really focused on anytime a family is in shelter past 30 days, that's kind of the mark that we're following best practice in terms of trauma-informed care. Anything past 30 days becomes more traumatic for a child. So it kind of started with that basis of how do we help aggressively, assertively, help a family transition. And it really stemmed from the fact if they're not having to worry about the basic needs, that hierarchy of needs, if their basic needs are met, then they can shift and focus on more long-term thinking. But when you're in the crisis, you can't think about it. And even what we start in shelter really isn't unpacked until they get into stabilization. But in our program, they're following guidelines around, when they're catching a shuttle or when they're reporting to the congregation, kind of quiet time, when lights are down, when you're getting up. They're eating food that they don't normally eat, although the food tonight was amazing. It was really good. But it's not their food, that they might cook for their own family. So tastes are different, people are different. But they are to be working every day towards ending their own homelessness. And any family coming in thinking that we're doing it for them or you're doing it for them is mistaken. And so a lot of our pre-work is making sure families understand every day in the program is work. I work hard, you support and help them, and our staff works really hard. We're gonna work very hard to help support their efforts. Most of our families are not using those. I know that's kind of shocking, but a very small percentage of our families actually move from our location into government or subsidized housing. First of all, there's very little public housing, and there's a very long wait list for it. But this is one of the issues that's going on right now in our county, and I can't remember how many are out there right now, but there's these Section 8 vouchers that some people do qualify for, but landlords aren't taking them. So so when families are in our program, we don't have them apply for SNAPs. One, you all provide the food, so that would be fraudulent. So if they were providing themselves with, if they were purchasing food while they're being provided food, that would not be okay. But also, we want them to have nutritious meals that are being made by volunteers. So while they're in shelter, that doesn't happen. Now, as they exit shelter, if that's a benefit that would help them, we will connect them to DCF as an access point to help connect them to those benefits. TANF is nothing. It's like a couple $100s. We dissuade any family from going for any TANF benefits. There's no benefit to the benefit. It's nothing. You have to work, I think, 30 or volunteer 30 hours a week for TANF benefits, which is good. I don't mean you shouldn't, but it's 30 hours you could be applying for a job or working towards long-term economic stability. Everything we do is the long-term stability. It's not that just right now. It may feel like that might be a solution, but it's not. It's not a good solution for the long term, especially in the housing market. A couple $100s gets you nowhere. It gets you a tank of gas or two, depending on your car. So no to the benefits. The goal is to not have a long-term dependency on resources. We want them to slowly over time be able to wean off any resources that they have, whether it's through us or anyone else. We want them to be like China, to be like, check me out, we're doing well, and then we have families come back and start to give back to our program or donate back to our program because they're able to come full circle. So I hope that answered that. Yes, you're welcome. Oh, good, yes. Yeah, I appreciate it. I see familiar faces. Lots of them. I have a couple cards. I started to hand them out and then I stopped, but I have up here at the front, so feel free to take them. Just kind of updated, since you've got our materials we rebranded during the pandemic. So we don't have the man, I call him Homer. There was the man reaching for the star as our logo, and Homer is gone because it didn't make a lot of sense. But we're a national organization, Family Promise, so they rebranded, so it's just the star. So the star you see up here in the corner, the man is gone because we serve families, so it didn't make sense that there was a single man reaching for the stars. So it's a little different, our colors are different, and our programs have expanded out, so if you want to take a card, then there's more information about the Firehouse Project if you're interested in learning more. We have a Firehouse page that has time-lapse videos. It's really cool to see it. There's lots of videos and pictures, and it's just exciting, and it's hard to explain that excitement, but it's super exciting to see everyone come together, especially around these donated community resources, so that funds can go to help families and not build things. So it's wonderful. Yep.
Good program.
Yeah.